We're not going to use any UV, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so then assign new material, surface shader, out color. Then basically we're just going to do a manual projection, not using the map painting toolkit. Perspective, primary proj, camera resolution off, and then I made a small version just so we're not doing a 4K version. Assign that, and then that should be it. So then you can up the res, and then in the extra attributes, up the res even more. Usually. Yeah, it's buggy. Anyway. So that takes a little bit, but well worth it. So you can see from that, that's all we need. So now I'm just going to jump into the perspective mode. Let's lock to it. So what I want to do is, not do that. I only want to deal with the polys, obviously, that we need to sculpt on the edges, because, although it'd be lovely to go and sculpt it all like ZBrush or something, but it's not necessary. I mean, possibly when we're talking about a perspective like this, it would help, but without shadows and highlights and stuff from lighting, and then when you're using projections, it's kind of, it doesn't make a difference. So anyway, what does make a difference is this edging that, is far too straight. So what we need is a whole lot of local subdivisions. So that's first. So I just select what faces I want. I'm just going to add some divisions there. 4. Okay, so back to where we were. Divisions added. So that should be enough for what we need. Now, it's much easier also here to turn off, in preferences, to turn off the mesh, wireframe and shaded, just so you can see exactly what you're sculpting. Just get it to a good view. So nowhere selected, and then just sculpt, sculpt geometry tool. So obviously, as I said, you could do this in ZBrush and you get a lot more control. But for what we need to do, it's not really that important. You got a few options, but and then B for your brush size. Oh, sorry, holding down B. Another one. And yeah, you just kind of bring out the in regards to the projection itself. Obviously, it's going to affect certain things. So, I guess the easiest way to think about it is if we can go out like this, like push the polys out rather than sculpting in, we could kind of render off a guide from the primary projection and the patches, but just a quick guide to extend our texture out. Because obviously, if we're pushing polys out, there's not going to be the texture from the projection angle. Not going to be the right texture. It'll be, what's on the wall behind, or etc. So, basically, we want to be able to see it. So on that angle, so up there, it's gone a bit far. But, that's kind of the idea. Then you could use a smaller brush, turn off smooth, and just do some little details. As I said, you get nowhere near the kind of fine control you got in ZBrush, but it's not really the best Maya tool in the world. Yeah, that's generally the idea. So, you can do that on any edge that you need to. So now the ground issue. So what I've done is I've kind of started a scene. And I've created 3 new cameras. So we have 4 new cameras. So 3. Created 3 new cameras. So we have a left camera that's very similar to the primary projection, but this is purely for this foreground area. And then a middle, and then a right, which covers these. So, basically, as I've shown you in the QuickTime, there are issues of the ground looking, I guess, realistic once you go from that angle to that angle. Basically for various reasons, but mainly perspective shifts. So, what we want to do is create a separate projection system that deals with our foreground issues, and we'll probably do a different one for the building again. But the whole purpose of me describing to you now is to show you setting up with user-defined masks. Now, the reason you need to use masks are because you've got this vast area that goes all the way from there to here, but from being quite close to camera. And so the way I guess I'm looking at it is that we have a mask basically splitting the projection into 3 parts. Now, the beauty of what we're dealing with is we've got this gutter line to kind of use as a mask edge. So, if you look at, again, from the left one, we can do a mask along that edge, which will be very helpful. And then, from the middle, you could go along that edge or something. Now, one issue is that if you use just a mask, you'll still have kind of the same issues you have not using a normal projection, where it'll, as soon as it moves out of the area, as soon as you see an area that's occluded from the first area, you'll see a gap, or the projection will reproject itself. So you basically need to use the light JS occlusion function in conjunction with your defined masks. Okay, so we assign a new surface shader. Select our left, middle, and right, and go to camera. So I'll show you first what happens if you don't use the GS occlusion. So I've basically kind of created a few quick standing textures. I'm still kind of working on that. But for the purpose of this, it will show exactly what's going on. So we look at our network for the ground projection and assign that to surface shader. Okay, so it's set up exactly the same as previously. So our bottom one is our left one, and I've got some textured masks here. So left, and so I'm just assigning the textures first, and then I'll get to assigning the masks. Okay, so the mask going to the ramp, basically, because that's currently where the mask is. If you change that ramp to black, this first projection won't show. Or if you do a ramp, half exactly, it'll just be like a normal grad ramp. An alpha with a grad kind of thing. But anyway, so what you do is you just need to change the type to UV, and in selected color, plug in an image. Now this is a gotcha. Change that back to normal because the projection is all done down the tree. So you just need to plug in a mask that you've created separately, which I've called left alpha. That's how the mask looks. So it's literally just of that foreground area. Now it does create a base 2D texture, which you can get rid of. It doesn't do anything. And then a mask for the middle one. So again, UV, normal, file, and middle. And you can see where that mask is. So that covers this left side, and I'll explain that too. Hang on. So I plugged that in. Now the bottom mask, just like in the map painting toolkit for the normal version, the bottom one has priority. So the bottom mask, I'm trying to illustrate that. In a layering system, this one here, this mask goes on top. So if if we add anything to this mask, let's see if I can explain it better. So if I added, say I had texture out here that I like, or up here that I like that works. So I don't want to just go on that gutter line. That will basically come into the shot because it has priority down the bottom. So this whatever here covers here regardless of where the mask is here. If that makes sense. So I'll try and illustrate that with a render. Anyway, so if you've got it all done, selected, surface shade is connected. Okay, I'll just do a quick render where it's at. Let's hit render and pause it for a sec. Okay, so the render's finished. So that's our left ground camera, middle ground camera doing that, the cobblestone street. And then that's our right one. So basically, as you can see, this is the mask edge. You can start to see the projection repeating itself, which is where I'll explain you need the GS occluded. I'll render another one just to show you that. But what I wanted to show you first was the priority, I guess, of the masking. So, if we, as I said, just go outside that. And just update the mask. The left alpha. So that should really just kind of illustrate that purpose in here. Yeah, so you can see, because I had white. Open up the textured file. Yeah, so you can see there's white outside that area. Yeah, and there's the mask. Yeah, so you can see that in there. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where the power is, I guess, to some degree. Once you've got a moving camera, that's where it can become tricky to deal with. But just to show you what's going to happen. Let's go back to where that was. Go further up. Let's pause it again. So you can see that render's finished, and you can see that projection is repeating itself because the angle has hit. That was an occluded area from the initial projection. Okay, so to do it with the occluded area as well, we assign a new surface shader. We select our left camera because that's really the only area that we need to worry about coming from here, going that way. Any included areas, hopefully. So we'll find out later about that. But say we start with that one. That's our ground left one. And we just do create an occlusion mask. Now then we select our left, middle, right, and make our projection. And graph our network. And just relink it all. You know the drill. Okay, that's it. So hopefully okay, so that fixes that. Obviously, I haven't got shadows from the lamp, what do you call them, silent cops or whatever they are. There's matte painting work that needs to be done for this to work, but once the projection's set up, then that theoretically becomes a whole lot easier. But that's the difference. So that's without the occlusion, the GS occlusion, that's with. So yeah, it works well. That creates another problem with the lamppost, with this pole. So anyway, one thing at a time. So yeah, now as I said, we're basically I'm gonna have to just split this up in two parts. Basically look at all the patch cams. Any more issues I had, I'll finish off the ground system and that separate building. I want to put a nice sign in towards the end of the shot here, slow down the shot, maybe add a bit of camera shake, and look at the flickering light, which is really kind of easy because it's just part of the files that I've been setting up. So yeah, I look forward to it. I'll see you guys in the last part of Class 10. Thanks very much. See ya.